Many people are asking what if the Third World War had broken out, especially because of the current turbulent situation between Russia and Ukraine. And in fact, the reason for the fears of many people didn't come out of a vacuum, because if you look at the issue closely, you will find it really terrifying, as some countries have lethal weapons that the world has never witnessed. And if you didn't comprehend the seriousness of the matter, then let me tell you that disasters resulting from the First and the Second World Wars were caused by only primitive planes, tanks, rifles, and pistols, while the most disastrous power that launched at the time was 2 nuclear bombs. They were small in size, and their appearance was at the end of the World War II. However, if you imagine that these nuclear bombs at the time were weapons of mass destruction compared to the current bombs, let me tell you that it is like fighting with swords and spears versus machine guns. Hello, here is Joe and Bro from wikiarmy Planet. And in this episode, we're gonna talk about the current weapons that are even more destructive than nuclear bombs and the 3 potential scenarios of World War III. Stay tuned.
In the beginning, let's go on a tour of the most powerful weapons, which are not limited to nuclear weapons at all. The reality is petrifying to the extent that there are weapons way more fatal than nuclear weapons. And it's surprising that your country or a neighboring one may have these weapons and you don't know anything about it. Normally, all countries aspire to have a strong army to defend themselves against any attack, and at the same time to impose their control among the surrounding countries. But in recent years, the issue has taken a somewhat strange path. There has been a terrifying development in weapons, to the extent that you can say it's impossible to use these weapons against humans. Humans are much weaker than this.
Nowadays, some countries have thermobaric weapon, which uses oxygen to explode and generate tremendous thermal energy. I mean, imagine a bomb fueled by air, and therefore these bombs generate a long-term blast wave compared to ordinary explosives. In addition, other countries have electronic vehicles loaded with weapons and missiles that have the ability to go to a specific area and target more than one target at the same time with high accuracy, even if these targets are 1,000 kilometers away from each other. What is frightening is that the explosion of only one shell is equal to the nuclear explosion that we have seen before, and it's almost outperformed.
There is also another type of missile, called intercontinental ballistic missiles. And they have the ability to carry missiles from one continent to another and cover a distance of more than 5,500 kilometers. And it's worth nothing that the radius of the planet is only 6,000 kilometers, meaning that these missiles are able to reach anywhere on the surface of the Earth with the push of a button. Furthermore, the aircraft carriers, which are capable of carrying more than 90 aircraft along with their cannons and ammunition and move them from one place to another, other than hydrogen bombs that are capable of melting rocks, and sound bombs. All of these weapons are currently on the surface of the planet, and the effect of nuclear bombs dropped in the World War II is not at all comparable to these weapons.
The countries of the world enjoyed the longest continuous period of peace in the modern era, of course before Russia attacks Ukraine. By the way, we have made a 3-minute length video explaining the dark history between the two countries and the cause of the war. Click here. So, what are the potential scenarios of another world war occurs? In fact, the war may take more than one path. The first is the exclusion of lethal weapons by any means, because we live on the same planet. If, for example, Russia drops one of these powerful weapons, then America will respond with the same weapon and perhaps stronger. So they didn't initially dare to use these weapons considering their personal safety. Thus, if Japan at the World War II had nuclear weapons, then the United States of America wouldn't have dared to drop the atomic bomb on Hiroshima.
The second scenario is to take place in the shape of an economic war and political siege, which is happening now. or it may continue to be an armored war with regular weapons, away from lethal weapons. Because as we explained, they are weapons of mass destruction and will include several countries. Unfortunately, this path will lead to the disappearance of small countries which depend on imports from abroad, such as food, oil, raw material, etc. So if war breaks out next to this country, food shipment, commercial goods, and imported energy sources will stop, and thus its population will die from starving and lack of food. Here's the kicker. Countries that contain large natural sources such as oil, natural gas and others won't be safe either, but will be the most vulnerable countries, just in case they don't have a strong army to protect their resources, because they will be exposed to occupation at any time.
As for the last course that event may take, it is for some parties not concerned with the conflict to get involved in the war. And from here, the circle will expand to include all countries of the world, and this is what we fear most at the present time, which is the joining of NATO to the war on the side of Ukraine against Russia. Because of the dispute between America and China, China will side with Russia to protect its interests, and the world will face a great imbalance of powers. On the other hand, there are some countries that want to settle accounts with other countries because of personal interests. For example, China wants to annex Taiwan, and there are water war between Egypt and Ethiopia. So events will unfold if that path is taken.
When Einstein was asked about the possibility of the Third World War, he said, "I don't know with what weapons World War III will be fought, but World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones." He meant with these deadly weapons that will sign to the end of the human civilization completely, annihilation of everything, and the death of technology forever.